Well, hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Buddhist Biohacker. My name is Lisa Gunshore, your host, and Buddhist Biohacker is creating conscious content for 1111D. We've been rolling for 6 months now, and we just keep going. We're 100 episodes in, and we have 100 to go before January 1st, 2021, which is so amazing. Hi, Carrie. Carrie's joining. So welcome to everybody who's joining in the live. You can absolutely ask questions, share your comments and stories. We'd love that. And I'm so happy because I really, really love our guest this afternoon, Krista Pasionek. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here. I'm so excited to even watch some of the past episodes that I haven't been able to, and I love what you're doing with this show. So thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you. I just really think you're such an inspiration and a resource for all of us women. And so I want to first start out with you just sharing a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Sure, absolutely. So, like Lisa said, my name is Krista Pasionek, and I am a financial navigator. So just a little bit of background on me. I have lived in Colorado for about 15 years. I'm originally from Northern California. I have a degree in something completely different. I was a biology major and actually a veterinary nurse for a very, very long time. Loved the animals, loved giving that medicine piece to everything, but felt like there was something missing. And when my husband became an entrepreneur about 10 years ago, I stayed in corporate to keep the family going and later realized that I was not cut out for the corporate world. But the first thing I realized when I left was that I didn't know anything about the money. I had basically handed over my financial adulthood and my financial future to the system. I basically said, oh, I'm just going to do what they told me is right, what they told me I'm supposed to do, and I will be prepared for the future. And I could not have been more wrong. So once I got educated on different options of how you can handle your finances, but more importantly, the mindset piece about money, I made it my personal passion and mission to share it with the rest of the women in this world, especially because we are very underserviced in this industry. It's usually very male dominated. And women are really stepping into their power when it comes to the money. They're starting to take over it, whether it's in the home, the business place, being their own business owners or entrepreneurs. And we're just realizing that women feel differently, think differently, communicate differently when it comes to money. And so we want to be able to really focus on not just that piece of it, but switching the whole mindset so that you can know that money is amazing and abundant and attract more of it to you because you love it so much. We try to take that stress out through education and help navigate through that space so you can get to that point of bonding that relationship with money.
Which is so huge because as females, it is tough, but as female entrepreneurs, it seems like it's even tougher to be able to push through all of our normal duties as moms and wives and even single gal. I mean, even when I was a single gal, like just trying to manage my business and work and do all those things is really challenging. So it's really needed. What have you found like over the years of doing this? Like, what do you think are like the top challenges for women with business?
I'd honestly say the number one thing is women by nature are usually givers. So we don't tend to focus on our needs. We tend to focus on everybody else. We want to make sure everybody else is taken care of. We're caretakers by nature. We want to nurture everything by nature. And we want to make sure that everyone else around us is happy, taken care of. And we usually put ourselves on the back burner. And that's not just with the self-care piece, but with all of it. When it comes to starting business, a lot of times it's something we're passionate about, we want to do, but we still put everybody else's needs and desires in front of our own. And realizing that you have the opportunity to actually take hold of your passion while still providing to everybody else, I think is number one. So it still starts with that mindset piece of it, of realizing your worth, and that you should really come first in these situations so that you can properly provide to everybody else. I really feel like that is the biggest common denominator that I find when it comes to women starting a business or even continuing to run a business they've had for a while. We just don't think of ourselves first.
Yeah, it's true. We really don't put ourselves first in so many ways. And don't you think that's magnified now this year with the quarantine? Like we're all home.
Yes. Yeah, I really do. I had to make a huge pivot when this happened. And that's when I decided to actually go get a separate office outside of my home because I realized how much less I was giving my business and giving time to it because I felt like so many other needs were not being fed for my family, for my husband, for my daughter, even for my mom and everybody else in your life. You just naturally don't tend to take care of you. And this has just absolutely amplified that situation of really wanting to make sure in this kind of crazy, unprecedented time that everyone else around us is taken care of and happy.
Yep, so true. And the extra responsibilities too for those of us with kids that had to manage things at home. And I'm really lucky that they're at a school right now, but there's a lot of folks doing things at home. And what are some of the things? So you went and got an office. I actually heard a great story. You'll love this story. I heard a story. One of my clients redid her camper in the parked in the driveway for her office. So she actually goes out to her camper.
I love that.
In front of her house and works and I actually, similar to you, I didn't go out and get a space. I did look at that. But we actually redid our house so that this room I'm in right now is actually my office. It was my littlest room, and we kind of moved things around in the house and put some of the kids together so that I could have a space, because having a space is so important, isn't it?
I agree. And I love that she did the camper. It's kind of like, it's like your own she shed that you already had, right? Like if you're not going to be using it right now, why not? Give yourself a space. That space is going to be such a huge mental shift to know the difference between this is mine. Like this is what I get to have for me. Because again, we don't give anything to ourselves. We don't tend to think of ourselves as number one. And so we put ourselves low on that totem pole. And if we have our own space where we can do the work, where we can do our manifesting, where we can do our meditating, where we can do whatever that space needs to be for, we all need that space to truly give ourselves the proper care and love, self-love, really, that we need to be able to do that for, so that way we can properly service our family, our clients, and whoever else that we're planning to give that service to. So I love that they turned that into that. That's fantastic.
I think it's good too. And it's so true. And, I met you locally here in Colorado, but for everybody who's listening, I know we have a lot of folks in the UK and other places. And the cool thing is that Krista's resources are available to everyone. But I think much like every other female entrepreneur, I thought I really don't need any of that stuff. I'm not really interested in joining another group. I don't really have time for that kind of thing. And then came that moment where I realized, gosh, I really need an accountant. I really need some help. I need to kind of take this to a different space. And you were the first person I thought of calling, and I realized how important and valuable those resources are. So I really want to ask you to share, what are some of the things, because you have trainings and groups and tools and classes and coaching and so many things. What are you doing now that's accessible to everyone that supports them during this time and supports you with your business? What are your key focuses and tools right now?
So I'm gonna kind of answer this in two parts. So one of the first things that you mentioned was really just not feeling like you don't need these things. One of the first things that I've realized is that oftentimes when it comes to the money, first off, money's intimate, right? Money is very intimate. It can be very scary. It can be intimidating. It can be so many different words. I can honestly say that I feel money is the most taboo subject that we have. We say that it's sex, politics, and religion, but anybody check your social media and you're going to find all three of those things on there. But one thing you're normally not going to find is money. We're not talking about it. And if we can't talk about it, how are we going to know what to do with it? right?
Yeah.
So oftentimes we feel like, well, I don't need anybody. Maybe I don't have debt, or I've got that under control, or maybe I just simply don't want to share my situation because either I don't like it, or I'm just scared to make the change. But the first thing that I tell people is everybody needs help when it comes to finances. And the reason why is just like anything else you do, you are an expert in your field. And to be able to focus and become a better expert in your field, you need to have a team of experts behind you. And oftentimes there's the other side that people think, well, I don't even have the money to afford any form of financial person or services. I don't even have enough money maybe to do anything with it, so I need to wait. And in all honesty, the best thing you could do is that's the time when you really need to talk to somebody. Great news is there's many people out there that don't cost. They don't charge a fee for their advice, for their assistance, and all of those things. They're able to help you 100% for free, so you can start out on the right track to get you to getting the money. Right. So that's kind of that number one. You want to make sure that you are reaching out to those people, so that way we can actually start to help get you on the path. That's why I say the word financial navigator. My goal, get you from point A to point B and help you reroute whenever you need to. And in whatever way to get you to your destination. So one thing that you can usually utilize, and one thing that the companies I work with are always offering, is we always have free seminars. Before all of this pandemic, we were doing them actually both live and virtually before. So we were ready to pivot when this happened, going, okay, well, I guess we're going to go all virtual. So we have classes as basic as things called Money 101, where you can learn the basics, the things that we really should have learned in high school. We took economics, we took government, we took all that stuff, but nobody taught us about money. And that's what we needed, right? So we have those are always free. We do the one that I met you at, Lisa, was Wine, Women, and Wealth, where we talk a little bit more about that mindset piece, really focus on those old tapes that we played in the back of our mind about money is scarce and money doesn't grow on trees and money is the root of all evil, and all those different things that really bruised our relationship with money in general, and it is one reason why we might have a struggle with it. And so we really focus on that piece. And then we have multiple other types of seminars and teachings and things like that, where we can just give information. Because ultimately, knowledge is power. The more you know, the better decisions you can make. And we aren't taught these things. We aren't even shown our options. So by being able to just help people see what is even available and just give them a little bit of knowledge, you can feel so much more empowered about your money decisions. And that's when you start to take over that space and really feel like you are in charge of your financial situation.
Mm-hmm. I love it. Well, and let's talk about the mindset, because that's a huge thing. And that's a huge thing we talk about, even through Buddhist Biohacker and other spiritual platforms. There's this whole thing about the programming and the tapes and what plays in our mind, and dealing with lack versus abundance. And so what are some of the key things that you've seen is the biggest challenges for women, really? I mean, I'm just wondering what you think it is. I'm sure a big part of it is having this, right? Believing you're worth it.
Yep.
Right.
Worth is a huge one. Worth is just knowing that you are worth it. So one thing that we talk about all the time is your personal self-growth and self-development, right? So you want to make sure that you are bringing yourself up to the level that the income level, basically, but bring yourself up there. So I always give the example of people that win the lottery. Right? People win the lottery. Their income and their self-esteem used to be here.
Mm-hmm.
And their income shoots up here, but their self-esteem and their self-worth and confidence stays here. When that happens, your income is going to naturally fall to where you are, which is why they blow through it. They file bankruptcy, there's difficulty with it, whatever it might be. But if you instead raise yourself up to that income level, then you're able, when you actually reach that and you get that money that you've honestly been manifesting and asking for, you'll realize that it's meant to be yours. It is intended for you. You are asking for it. The universe is providing it to you. So you need to know that it is yours. Because another thing people do is, have you ever found like $100 bill on the floor?
Mm-hmm.
20 bucks, $100.
Yeah.
Right? What is usually the first thing that you think to do with it? Because you're not going to turn in cash. Nobody's going to come claim cash, right? But you tend to go blow it.
Yeah.
You tend to go, you know what? I'm going to go blow it on something, right? And it's because mentally and subconsciously, you know it's not yours. You feel like it's not intended for you. So you need to go get rid of it as soon as possible. And that's just a natural subconscious reaction that we have to those things. So really realizing that you need to bring yourself up to the level that you're asking your income to be at, or you're asking where this abundance to come from, you need to bring yourself up there. So that way, once it actually arrives and becomes yours, you know that it's yours to claim and that you absolutely are worthy of it. So yes, I definitely think that that is number one. The other one, I had a conversation with with another woman about 2 weeks ago. We were talking about the definition of affordability. So a lot of people think of affordability as, do I have the money to support me purchasing this thing? Like a very literal, can I afford it? Is the money in the bank to support the purchase, right? Now that's the first definition. Many people don't realize that there's a second definition to the word afford. And that is to be able to provide in some way or another. So for example, if I do this, it will afford me the time to do this. Or if I choose to go here, then it will afford me the opportunity to do something else. And so we always look at afford as it's a literal, if I don't have it, I can't afford it. But if you switch your brain to realizing that the word afford actually means to also provide, then you can switch it to realize maybe if I don't, it's not that I can't afford it, it's that I can't afford not to do it. And so it just helps that mental shift. And most people didn't even know that that second definition even existed, because we get to the first one and we go, I can't afford it. And so luckily, by realizing that afford also means to provide is just another way. So it's just little tiny mental shifts on the way that you interpret words or the way that you use them. And self-talk is a huge one too.
Yeah. Well, and how do we learn how to value ourselves? I know that's a really big question, but you're talking about, what we can afford and what our value is on ourselves and what we hold on to. And I think especially as a spiritual practitioner, because a lot of the folks who are watching right now are spiritual practitioners. They are healers and teachers and all sorts of things. And so there's a real challenge. I've been through it. I mean, I've been doing this for 20 years, and it's hard to sort out what you're worth and what you feel comfortable charging. And I don't know that that's just spiritual. I'm going to guess that all of us have this challenge when you're running your own business of what am I really worth? And then how do you stand behind that? Because so often everybody, like, we all devalue ourselves. We devalue our gifts. We devalue what we're offering. And I know for me too, my challenge has been, I mean, I think I'm sorting that out nowadays, but my challenge has been, accessibility. I want what I have to offer to be accessible to as many people as possible and still have the energy exchange. So there's this real challenge with like these tapes that play about the value and the self-worth that go into what we're charging, that go into what you're talking about, which is what can I afford and what can I afford to do? What can I afford not to do? Like, what is it that, creates space for myself? I mean, part of charging more, especially in a spiritual space, gives you the opportunity to have space to do the work that you need to do on yourself. And it's the same around, right? If you're
absolutely
a fitness trainer, you need time to go train your own body. Like if you're like doing what you do and helping people with their business, you've got to be able to research and study. So anyway, that's a big long-winded question, but I really, how do we do it? Like,
it's a very valid and common question, honestly. And I love that as a spiritual practitioner, you even mentioned like there's still times that everybody struggles with these worth questions, with these valuation questions. It's not just, the rest of us that haven't gotten maybe even to that spiritual point yet, or any of those things. Everybody has this difficulty. And that's absolute. And men too. This is definitely not just focused on women in any way, shape, form. This is all of us. And so the biggest thing that I noticed for me, and I can really on this subject only give my personal kind of opinion on this one. What I learned for me is really digging down deep, and I had to go through a huge self-rediscovery, but digging down deep and realizing what have I already accomplished, and being able to realize that my success rate is pretty good, right? Like I've been able to accomplish so many things, and really reflecting back and realizing what maybe have I manifested in the past that I have now. What do I have right now that I used to ask for? Because oftentimes we take those pieces for granted. We forget that the situation we are currently in, the goods of what we have, and even the bads, are something that we previously asked for, or decisions that previously have put us in that space. So for example, I'm gonna pick on my husband because he's not watching, he's not in the house right now, so I like to pick on him. He has always wanted to own his own shop. He works on cars. He's always wanted to own his own shop. He said when he was 15 years old that his dream would be to own his own shop on his own property. It took 25 years for that to happen, but last year it happened. And I had to be the one to remind him, hey, you manifested this 25 years ago. And he was totally blown away. He was like, oh my God, you're absolutely right. I did ask for this. And he had gone in a totally different direction for 15 of those 25 years. Didn't even work on cars. So it was such a great realization that the moment that he realized that, oh my gosh, my dreams are coming true, it switched a little thing in his brain. So remembering that, think about the things you have in your life, those good things that 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 25 years ago was a mere impossible dream that you couldn't even figure out how to get there. And that helps you start to realize like, oh my gosh, I am capable. I can do these things. And that starts to build that confidence. If you really need some more help with it, another thing that I've actually sat down and done with many women, especially like stay-at-home moms or part-time entrepreneurs, any of them, is sit down and literally think about the things that you do on a daily basis to get the kids ready, cook breakfast, take them to school, run the errands, do all of these things. And I want you to think about how many hours you spend either on a monthly basis or a yearly basis doing this. And then figure out how much it would cost you if you hired somebody else to do that. Add all of that up, and I guarantee you that every single person watching is worth over $1 million. And it's just something we take these things for granted because it's habitual. It's something that we just, oh, that's just something I'm supposed to do, and I might enjoy doing it, but this is just what is my daily thing. And so realizing that, yeah, but those things are worth something. You can put a monetary value on that and realize how much you do every day is really worth it. So those are the biggest places that I started to realize.
I like it because, yeah, I mean, just a house cleaner can be, $500 for somebody to come clean your house when you start to add it up. And I think, something that I like to add on to what you're saying too is I always share with some of my students who are getting ready to launch their own spiritual practices, add up how much money you have spent on training, certifications, courses, books, classes, individual counseling, all these things that we do to become who we are, to help other people in whatever modality, whatever it is we're doing. and also the value on your time, if you have a refined practice of meditation, or again, if you're like a personal trainer, you have a refined practice in your training and your schedule. And all of us with research, I'm a holistic practitioner. I'm studying right now for a certification.
Yeah.
And there's all these learnings and summits and things we attend. And when you add it all up, it's like, wow, you're really, really valuable.
Yes. And I love that you bring that up, because that is usually the second step after you've added up those things you do on a daily basis. Now add up the things that you've paid for education. Like you said, your certifications, that's exactly the next step, because you are worth that amount. And realize that you're worth that amount because you did value yourself at that time, valuable enough to spend that money on your self-development and your business development or whatever it might be. You valued yourself and your business enough to spend that money, and therefore you are worth that amount. So if you have a bachelor's degree that costs $250,000, automatically you're worth $250,000.
Yep.
Period. And if you had a scholarship to it, you're still worth the $250,000. It doesn't matter whether you spent for what it is, that is what it would cost. And therefore you are worth that amount. So I love that you bring that up, because it's absolutely true. We have to realize those things are investments that we've made in ourselves, and it is an investment. And investments, if you're doing them right, only increase in value. So realize that as you just build on that and you grow even more, the more and more valuable that you become. And the moment you realize that, it's so much easier to go, you know what, dang it, I am worth it, and I deserve this amount of money. And it becomes a little bit easier how to pick how much you charge and all of those things. But I really feel that self-valuation, self-worth is still step one, because it's going to be really hard to decide what to charge until you know what your work is worth.
Yep, it's true. And you do almost have to do all those different exercises to really understand the value of what you do, and to kind of let go of whatever construct, because I think there are constructs in place in our society that say certain things aren't worth certain amounts. And so there's this bursting through that ceiling of, this isn't about whatever construct you've put yourself in, and you don't have to be a martyr, and you don't have to just because you're brand new doesn't mean, to whatever your business is, doesn't mean that your brand new business isn't worth what maybe a business that's been in business for 20 years is either, right?
Right. And so because the valuation is you and the service you offer. Whether you've been doing it for one day or for 50 years, it's what you bring to the table. What service are you truly providing, and what are you and your service worth? So really making sure the time, yes, we all have that feeling. And again, that's kind of a society put, thing that, well, the more longer you've done it, the more you're worth. Not necessarily. There's many people that may have been doing it forever but never got the schooling. And then there might be the people that got the schooling but are only just started. The people that might be doing it the new way instead of the old way. And you're going to have your right client. That's the other thing that I always love to remind people of is, if somebody isn't willing to pay the price that you know you are worth, then they're probably not your client. And it's okay to let them go. So just making sure that you know that not everybody's yours. That's okay. Making sure that you know your worth. And again, and then it naturally happens. So just make sure that it's not time, it's you, what you bring to the table, what you have to offer, is going to be really what it comes down to.
Yeah.
So it's so important to know that.
It is. And here we are, 2020, Great Awakening, everything's changing.
Oh my goodness.
Oh gosh, what are you seeing are the quantum leaps forward in entrepreneurship as a whole? I mean, what have you seen happen this year with your clients, with yourself, with the industry that is entrepreneurship?
So what I've noticed both sides. Which kind of stinks in certain situations. But I have noticed the ones that have truly just gone into their shell and don't know how to handle these situations, which in a lot of ways you can't blame them, is a difficult space to navigate. And then you have the ones that get creative. So one thing that I have learned, I know I said earlier, knowledge is power, but I feel like another thing that's even more powerful than knowledge is creativity and imagination. The more you have of that and you're able to go, how can I change this? What can I do to make it different? And don't let those limiting beliefs of everything else and all of the noise around you limit what your opportunities are. So people are getting creative, and I love the things I'm seeing. Being able to completely switch to an online platform if it's something that works, or changing what you're offering a little bit without taking it fully out of that scope. So one example I always go back to is during Prohibition. So back in the 20s, right? During Prohibition, I know, right? I think a lot of people said, they were like, I want to bring back the Roaring 20s. We didn't mean this, right, guys? Like, please let's not do this again. But I always think of actually Coors here in Colorado.
Oh yeah.
One thing Coors did is they just started offering other things. They had all of this byproduct from the beer that they used to make, and they can't make the beer and sell it anymore. But they had other byproduct that could be used in other ways by the community. And so they pivoted very quickly, and they were able to change what they were offering, and it kept them alive. But it had to get creative. Somebody had to use their imagination, change the way it was, and really honestly get outside of comfort zone. I know we are all completely outside of comfort zone right now. And I think that by changing, again, it's a mindset, right? Change it from a bad thing, and I'm trying to think of the right word, but change it from a bad thing to an opportunity. Realize that with every hardship comes opportunity. There's balance. At least I'm sure that you kind of teach this in a lot too. There's always a balance. There's a positive and a negative with every situation. So while one of them may be very obvious, the other one is there just as powerful. We just have to find it. And that's where you can reach out to people like you, like myself, friends, family, people to really help just motivate those creative juices to figure out that opportunity side of it. What is this crisis or this pandemic offering me as an opportunity? Because we have our perceptions of what we wanted without realizing that maybe this was actually intended to shift you into the path that you were meant to go. So right now it might be hard, but it could be pushing you to get you to that next level that you've been trying to get to. So switching it, I had somebody tell me the other day, don't waste a crisis. And I was like, I was like, that's amazing, because that's exactly what he was talking about. Don't waste this crisis and assume that it's just doom and gloom and nothing good can come of it. There's just as much good as there is bad that can come out of this. You just need to find it. And that's a mindset thing.
Yeah, and I love that.
Two sides.
Yeah, that's part of ascension. Part of ascension is we're given a catalyst, and it's about leveraging your catalyst to raise your vibration, to change your consciousness, all of those things. And so it goes right in line with what you're saying, which is like when you're given a catalyst like we have this year, it's really about taking the quantum leap and not being afraid. And like you, I have some of the clients that I coach and work with, they went out and they went virtual right away, or they were already ready, or, they made whatever changes they needed to. And there were other folks who are just afraid to do it. And I think this is the time where you have to be ready. You have to be ready for what's next, because the planet Mercury leads communication and technology.
Yeah.
And where it's located this year is asking us to make radical changes in our technological advances in our communication, which is exactly what happened. The quarantine obviously forced us all onto Zoom. So we're all been on Zoom now. We all know how that works. But the reach is so amazing. Like, we're able to reach so many more people now. And I think for anyone out there who's listening to us, like, don't be afraid to take your business virtual. It's
an opportunity, right? Like, you can reach more, you can change, and you might be able to figure out that, this way was so much better anyway. It will definitely help just bring you to that other space where you're able to notice exactly that opportunity piece of it. And I love that you mentioned, because it's not just the technology, it's the communication too. Like we switched to a completely different technological type of communication. And it's fantastic. So we have to look at the good, not just the bad. Yes, is there bad? Absolutely. But also think of every single good thing. There's always been a bad with that too. So there is balance. There's always the balance. And it's easy to focus on the obvious. And we naturally, as humans, tend to also focus on the negative. It's just a natural thing for us to do. So it takes effort for us to find a positive in a negative. It takes effort for us to find opportunity in a crisis. But it's there. Get creative, use your imagination, and you'd be amazed at how you honestly might look back and go, that's the best thing that's ever happened to my business. And it may not be obvious right now, but think about the fact that, like you said, it's that catalyst. There is something here that has to push you over the edge into that next step, because it's what's going to push you out of comfort zone. It's what's going to literally launch you to that next level. But you can't do that without a catalyst. I listened to an Audible one time that he said he used to get so excited when something bad would happen. He's like, something bad would happen, and I'd be like, oh, yes, this is so exciting, because he knew that something good was on the other side.
Yeah.
Like and he goes, the worse it was, the better the outcome was later. He's like, so even the worse it was, he's like, people thought I was crazy because I was excited when bad things would happen, because I knew that the light at the end of the tunnel was brighter than the light behind me. And so I wanted to make sure that, he's like, I get excited. It's just, to me, it's like, oh yes, the next step is here. The next level is waiting for me to just jump on it. And I just have to figure out how to get there. So again, mindset, it's take on the challenge, get excited. You started this business or whatever you're doing because it lit you up and set you on fire. Use the fire, use it. It's what it's for. Don't forget the fire that you used to have. Find it again. It's easy to lose it through the process. So, but that's that catalyst that's really going to launch you there. And the more fire you give it, the faster that rocket's going to go.
Yep, totally agree. That's how this goes. I mean,
yeah.
really.
I remember the story when you and I were talking when you were getting ready to launch this.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
And it all came from, what do I do if I can't go to these places and do these things? And then you start and you go. And that kind of leads me into the next thing I really want to talk to you about, which is community. I'm working on some stuff that I think is going to be really cool. And we'll talk about that because it's still a secret for all of you guys out there. You and I will talk about that after. But I really think community, when it comes to small business, is so important. And one of the things that's happened this year is that small business has taken a massive hit.
Yes.
And in some ways, some ways it's really expanding depending on where you're at and what you're doing. But community is really important, and trusting your community. I think there's a lot around this concept of creating community of people that you can trust, and even doing business with each other and trading with each other. I mean, this is like the way of the new reality, is to be able to work with each other and to be able to provide services to each other in support. And so with all of that said, the Wine Women in Wealth is a great community, and I don't get to get on the calls as often as I'd like to, but it's such a great support system for women to be able to connect and talk and share, and to also learn. And so I want you to share what you think about community, and talk a little bit about the community that you've been building, because it's a big one.
It is. And so I never realized how much community was important until I became an entrepreneur. If you work in corporate or any of those things, you feel like that is your community, right? Mm-hmm. So you feel like my coworkers, my colleagues, those have tended to be my community the whole time. You leave and you decide to go out on your own, and I'm not kidding you, and I'm sure all of you out there know, it is the loneliest thing in the world. Entrepreneurship is lonely. And so making sure that you have people that you can celebrate with, that you can commiserate with, that you can do all of these things together is one, going to be invaluable for your just mental health. But also, I've always loved the word tribe, right? Many of us use that word. Find your tribe, find your people. And if you truly look back at where that word is originating from, it's a community of people that literally were there to support each other in every aspect. People had their roles, people, provided certain things, but everyone relied on everybody for that support to honestly just live. And so having that, and I'm talking outside of family, outside of your normal circle of friends, you need to find like-minded people that are in your same kind of situation. So for me to talk with my family isn't necessarily going to be the right platform or the right community if I need to talk about entrepreneurship and none of them are entrepreneurs. Same thing with my normal circle of friends. If they all work for corporate or they might be stay-at-home moms, or I can't mastermind with those people. I say those people, that sounds terrible. But you know what I mean? I can't mastermind with them. I need a community of women or women and men that are going to actually be in that same space as me. They're building, they are hungry, they're hustling, they're doing exactly, and they are getting there, because that's where that creativity, that imagination, and those extra ideas are going to come from. And they are there for you no matter what. And you need that tribe that energizes you. So I'm sure, at least you talk about all the time, energy, right? In general, everything is energy. And you need to make sure that you are with and around the right energy. You have to make sure that whatever tribe that you are building, if there is a wrong energy in there, you got to get it out. It's not fun to think about things or people that we have to let go of or maybe spend less time with. But this is a space where I will tell people all day long, when it comes to your business community, your community of people that you are literally wanting to be around because they build you up and they set you on fire, you need to be selective. Absolutely selective with who you pick, the time that you spend, the energy that you give. You need to make sure that you're getting back. So it's just building that proper community and making sure it feels good is huge. And I want you to feel good to the point that when you leave, you can't go to sleep. You're so excited. You need that energy. And finding it's not easy sometimes, but once you do, you feel it's home, right? So Wine, Women, and Wealth is my favorite night of the month because these women light me on fire. They get me so excited. The energy, I'm so excited that we're back to doing part in person and part virtual because I need the physical energy. I need that. Yes, you can get a little bit on virtual, but gosh, that physical energy, you can feel it's palpable when you walk in the room, and it's awesome. So finding that for yourself is going to be one of the most important things you can do for your business and for you personally. And it really does start with community. It cannot be stressed enough how important that's going to be to your growth, because you really are the sum of the top 5 people you hang out with. The people, think about the people you hang out with, the top 5 people you hang out with in your life, and you are going to be the average of those people when it comes to income level, when it comes to those things. If you are the smartest person or the richest person in the room, it's time to up level. It's time to upgrade. And it sounds sometimes silly, and it might even sound bad in some ways, but you deserve it for you. I'm not saying you can't go be with them, but that community for your business, it's time to up level into that space to where you are, again, not the smartest in the room, not the richest in the room. You need to make sure you have people that are pushing you out of your comfort zone to help you grow. It's the only way it's going to happen. If you're the richest or the smartest, you're helping everyone else grow, which is fantastic, but you still need to find another tribe to help you get to that next level and level up to the next space that you're striving for.
Yep.
So I love it. Seriously, community has been so important for me, and separate from my family, separate from my main circle of friends. And crazy enough, they become my main circle of friends because I just feel so connected with them.
I love it. And it's true. You have to have, I've learned this year that community is not only really important and valuable, but having that community that shares in what you're doing on a day-to-day basis is so important, to be with other entrepreneurs, to be with other practitioners. I just had a conversation with a dear soul sister the other day, and, she does the same work I do. And not everybody has the same kind of day where you have to talk to somebody about them leaving the planet because they're ill, or talk to somebody that has left the planet for someone who's grieving, or to manage through addiction, or manage through divorce and pain and all these things. It's a lot that we take on as healers and counselors and psychics and things like that. And so to have like-minded people who are doing that same kind of work is so important. And so what's cool about Wine, Women, and Wealth, and what I like about it, is it's other female entrepreneurs. And there's always somebody in the group that you can connect with, whether you're virtual. So for all of you guys who aren't in Colorado, whether it's virtual or in person, but there's always somebody who does something similar to you so that you have that connection. But then there's also people who are doing completely different things that you might be able to collaborate with. So networking, that's age old, isn't it? It's like age old, go networking, LinkedIn, the whole thing for networking, right? But it really is so valuable. Like, collaborating with other people is really, really valuable.
Well, and I think it's not just, networking isn't just about, yes, you're trying to fill your funnel. You're trying to meet new people so that you can spread your services and spread your word. Absolutely. But I love that you even mentioned, that there's somebody else that does something similar to you. There's so many times when we look at networking, we look at things like industry specific networking, right? Which in some ways are fantastic. They have their purpose. They have their space that you need for the work, for the networking. However, going to those ones that aren't industry specific and collaborating and meeting up with the people that are in the same field as you, realize that it's not competition, it's collaboration. You might do the same thing, you might have the same services that you offer, but when it really comes down to it, if you offer something like, I'll say real estate agents. Real estate agents here in Colorado are a dime a dozen. I could personally probably name 50 off the top of my head. But when it comes down to it, there's no reason for them to consider themselves to be always in competition with each other. One, think abundantly. There is plenty to go around, always. So just remember to always think abundantly when it comes to that. But also, what you can learn from each other is amazing. You could get another agent could say something that it just clicks it in your brain and it completely launches you forward. It doesn't mean that they're going to have less. It just means that you both get to rise. So it's that rising tide raises all ships, right? It's you get to rise together and collaborate. And trust me, when they pick somebody, they pick you. They don't necessarily pick what you do, but they buy you because they connect with you. You're the person that they want to work with because they felt that energy connection. So don't be afraid of meeting up with other people in your same field. It's amazing how you can collaborate. And like they always say, if you're a therapist, therapists need therapists. It's the same idea. Spiritual practitioners need spiritual practitioners. Financial people need financial people. It's just the way that it is. And there's nothing wrong with that. By giving it over to somebody else when it's your personal stuff, it takes away that emotional side a little bit more, which is nice because you can look at it more practically. But gosh, the amount of masterminding and all of that you can do with people in your same field it's incredible. So I love that you mentioned that you like to find somebody that's in your field.
Yeah, I think that's kind of nice because then you have somebody to talk to about, like, man, today was rough, and they get it, or it's today or whatever it is. But there's an understanding that doesn't come if you haven't done whatever that person's doing. I'm never going to understand what a lawyer does in a day. It's never going to happen. So I think it's important to do that. We've got a great comment from Carrie. She said, such good and sage advice. Thank you. I believed money is not my primary purpose It still is not my primary purpose. It is far more valuable than the value I would have placed on it 45 minutes ago. So thank you.
I love it. That's fantastic.
Krista, I love having you do this. I think we need to do this more.
I would love to.
As we go into the new year and new focuses and all that good stuff. But I want to give you space here as we wrap up to really share like what's accessible, how can folks access you? Obviously, everybody, her information is going across the screen right now, and we have it in the show notes. But I love to give you the chance to share what's going on, what you want to share today with everybody.
I appreciate you so much. And again, thank you for having me. I love the space you've created for people, and I feel so honored to be a guest. So thank you again for having me. When it really comes down to it, guys, my main goal is to really help people feel good about money. I want you to realize that money is amazing. Realize that you are capable of earning as much as you want, having that abundant mindset. So what I really do, and I really help people business-wise and personal-wise, to just show you the routes that you have to get you to your financial destination. Whether it's your primary purpose or not, we all do this usually to be able to gain some sort of a profit. And if it's a nonprofit, we even have ways to make that even better for you. So it's something to where money is, or at least finances of some sort, are a part of what make our world go round. We all can joke that we need it, but what I want you to do is I want you to want it. And that usually comes down to just realizing your worth, changing your mindset to understand that money is amazing and will provide you the opportunities to do all of the things that you want. And so my goal truly is to just show you your options, help you connect with the right people, and really just help you get to the point where you are no longer worried about that piece and can just focus on what you do best. So whether it's coming to Wine Women of Wealth, which I know that Lisa, you mentioned that I have, my website is there, but on my Facebook one, usually I post our monthly event. No matter where you are, you're more than welcome to join us. Like I said, there's virtual as well as live. So if you're not in Colorado, there might even be ones that are around you. Let me know, reach out to me. And I can see if there's one even in your area to just get that amazing tribe of people behind you. So that way you can just continue to grow and make sure that you are in a space where you are getting to your destination. So yeah, I mean, it's really just financial services are financial services. I do them a little bit different, but my focus is for you to feel educated and empowered when it comes to the money. And that's really my main goal. I never charge a fee to sit with either. So the worst thing that ever happens is you get a little bit of knowledge, get some questions answered, and I'm always here for everybody.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being on. It's just a joy. And I know we'll have you on again soon. And thank you to everybody who is watching. We had a great audience today. And I will see everybody back, I think, tomorrow. Tomorrow's Herbal Thursdays with Cheryl Garcia, the Colorado herbalist. So we'll be back tomorrow afternoon.
Awesome. Bye, guys.